Shelby Miller's 2015 season is one of the most bizarre seasons by a pitcher in baseball history. It was so bizarre that a season like his had not happened in over 100 years. What made it so unusual? The season started off fantastic for Miller, who was showing ace potential. Through his first 8 starts of the season, Miller was 5-1 and had an ERA of 1.33. He had also thrown 2 complete game shutouts at this point, one of which he came within 1 out of a no-hitter before Justin Bour of the Marlins broke it up with 2 outs in the 9th. Right when Miller was looking like the next elite pitcher in baseball, that's when things got topsy-turvy. As mentioned earlier, through the first 8 starts of his season, Miller had a 1.33 ERA and a 5-1 record. He would go on to pitch in 25 additional games that season, recording a respectable ERA of 3.63 over that stretch. His record during that span? 1-16. 1 win and 16 losses. Those 16 losses all came before that one victory, I want to point out. Overall, in 2015, Shelby Miller recorded an ERA of 3.02 over 205 innings pitched, which includes a 3.45 FIP, 127 adjusted ERA, and a 6-17 record. Miller's 3.02 ERA was the 14th best among all qualified pitchers in baseball, yet he led the league in losses. Miller went 1-16 over his final 25 games, and the Braves overall went 4-21 during those 25 games. Despite pitching good baseball, Atlanta could not manage to win him a game. During that span, Miller gave up 3 runs or fewer in 17 of those 25 games. The Braves' record in those 17 games? 4-13. Even when he was good, the Braves were bad. Really bad. Forget Felix Hernandez or Jacob deGrom. You want to look at a season that demonstrates how meaningless wins are? Look at Shelby Miller's 2015 season. A top 15 ERA, and the Braves only managed him 6 victories in 33 chances. By comparison, that very same season, Rockies pitcher Kyle Kendrick recorded a 6.32 ERA over 27 games. Despite only pitching in 142 innings, Kendrick led the league in earned runs allowed and home runs allowed. His ERA was more than double that of Shelby Miller's. Kyle Kendrick won 7 games. One of the worst pitchers in baseball had more victories than one of the best pitchers in baseball. It really goes to show, no matter how good of a pitcher you are, if your team is a dumpster fire, you're not going to get many wins. And while that may be true, even good pitchers on bad teams will still rack up victories. Shelby Miller's 2015 season is historic. How historic? Let's look at his win-loss percentage. With 6 victories and 23 decisions, Miller has a .261 win-loss percentage. I went ahead and looked at all starting pitchers in baseball history to have a win-loss percentage at 300 or lower in a single season. For reference, a 300 win-loss percentage can be something like a 3-7 record or a 6-14 record. Out of all of the pitching seasons with a win-loss percentage of 300 or lower, I set the minimum requirement for at least 23 decisions. Why 23? That's how many Miller had, and is a solid sample size in my opinion. Lastly, I also set the minimum requirement for a 125 adjusted ERA. Miller had a 127 adjusted ERA in 2015, so I'd like a player around his skill level or better. This final requirement filters out a lot of pitchers. It's not uncommon to see a sub 300 win-loss percentage for a bad pitcher, it is historic to see it for a good pitcher. The amount of times this has happened in baseball history is 3. 3 times has a pitcher met these requirements. Shelby Miller in 2015, Mike Gold in 1875, and Sam Weaver in 1878. Twice in the 1870s and once in 2015. Golden went 7-19 with a 1.86 ERA and 127 adjusted ERA in 1875, and Weaver went 12-31 with a 1.95 ERA and 135 adjusted ERA in 1878. And you know something? Golden and Weaver have legitimate reasons for their terrible win-loss percentage. Golden had given up nearly 4 times as many unearned runs than earned runs, and Weaver 2.5 times as many. Baseball was very different in the 1800s, and defense was almost non-existent. Errors and unearned runs flourished before the live ball era. How common were errors? To give a decent perspective, if you look at the top 400 players on the leaderboard for most errors in a single season, 4 of those seasons are after 1920. 4 out of 400 are after 1920. If we expand it to the top 500 leaders for most errors committed in a single season, the most recent year is 1930. No wonder why Golden and Weaver had so many losses compared to wins. Their team's defense committed a ton of errors, which therefore led to these 2 pitchers allowing a lot of unearned runs. Since so many unearned runs were being scored, their loss total went up, but their ERA and adjusted ERA were still very good. Miller only gave up 13 unearned runs compared to 69 earned runs. There is no excuse the Braves have for giving Miller this horrendous record. Shelby Miller's 2015 season is bizarre, unlucky, and captivating all at the same time. It's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, and we may never see a season like his ever again.